What if everything bad in your life is actually a blessing? Nova effect. What if everything bad that has ever happened to you, the disappointments, the failures, the heartbreaks, the losses, wasn't actually bad at all? What if every moment of pain, every setback, every seemingly unfair twist of fate was actually setting you up for something greater? This isn't just wishful thinking. It's a concept rooted in one of the most fascinating ideas in philosophy and probability, the Nova effect. And once you understand it, it might just change the way you see your entire life. The Nova effect is named after a fictional story about a man whose dog runs away. At first, he's devastated. His dog was everything to him. But then, a few days later, because his dog is missing, he avoids a tragic accident that would have changed his life forever. What seemed like the worst thing that could happen to him turned out to be a blessing in disguise. This is the essence of the Nova effect, the idea that we are terrible at predicting what is truly good or bad for us in the long run. Because we see life from a limited perspective, we judge events based on how they make us feel in the moment, rather than how they fit into the bigger picture. But what if we stop doing that? What if, instead of labeling things as good or bad, we simply let life unfold and trusted that it was leading us somewhere meaningful? Think about your own life. Can you remember a time when something you thought was a disaster actually led to something incredible? Maybe you lost a job you thought you needed, only to find a better opportunity down the road. Maybe a rejection pushed you to improve yourself in ways you never would have otherwise. Maybe heartbreak forced you to grow into the person you were meant to become. We've all had moments like this, moments where, in hindsight, we realize that what we thought was a curse was actually a blessing. But why do we resist this idea in the moment? Why do we fight against life instead of embracing it? It's because we are wired to seek certainty, to crave control. When something doesn't go our way, our first instinct is to panic, to assume the worst, to feel like life is working against us. But what if life isn't against us? What if it's simply rearranging itself in ways we can't yet understand? What if every failure is actually a redirection? What if every loss is creating space for something greater?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
This is where things get even deeper. If the Nova effect is real, if we truly can't judge events as good or bad in the moment, then what does that mean for how we should live? Should we stop resisting change? Stop fearing failure? Stop trying to control everything and instead learn to trust the process of life itself? And if we did that, how different would our lives feel? The hidden patterns of the universe, how chaos shapes your destiny. If the Nova effect teaches us anything, it's that we are living inside a story that is far bigger than we can comprehend. We are like characters in a book, experiencing each chapter as it comes, with no way of seeing the full narrative. When something painful happens, we assume it's a tragedy. When something good happens, we assume it's a victory. But what if those assumptions are completely misguided? What if what we call bad is actually the beginning of something extraordinary? And what if what we call good is leading us towards something we might later regret? Throughout history, some of the most successful, influential, and wise people have understood this truth. They have seen their failures not as dead ends, but as detours, their setbacks not as punishments, but as redirections. Think about Steve Jobs, who was fired from his own company, only to come back years later and create one of the greatest technological revolutions of our time. Think about J.K. Rowling, who was rejected by 12 different publishers before her books became a global phenomenon. Think about every great thinker, entrepreneur, artist, and leader who faced moments where the world told them, this is the end, and yet, those moments were just the beginning. But here's where it gets even deeper. What if this isn't just about individual success? What if this is the way the entire universe works? Look at nature. A forest fire seems destructive, but it clears the way for new growth. A volcanic eruption seems catastrophic, but it creates some of the most fertile land on Earth. Life needs chaos. It needs destruction. It needs things to fall apart so that something stronger, something more resilient, can take their place. And if that's true in nature, why wouldn't it be true in our own lives? The problem is our perspective. We resist change because we fear the unknown. We cling to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves us. But the universe is never static. It is always evolving, always shifting, always breaking apart and rebuilding itself in ways we cannot predict. And the more we fight against that, the more we suffer. The more we try to control everything, the more frustrated we become. But what happens when we let go? When do we stop labeling experiences as good or bad and instead trust that they are simply part of the process? Imagine how different your life would feel if you embraced this mindset. If, instead of fearing failure, you saw it as necessary growth. If, instead of resenting setbacks, you saw them as stepping stones. If, instead of mourning lost opportunities, you trusted that life was guiding you towards something even greater, how much lighter would you feel? How much more confident? How much more alive? But let's take this even further. If everything that happens to us is neither good nor bad, but simply part of a greater unfolding, then what does that mean for how we should live? Should we stop worrying entirely? Should we stop making plans, stop setting goals, stop striving for more? Not at all. The key is not to abandon ambition, but to redefine our relationship with it, to pursue our dreams with passion, but without attachment, to take risks, but without fear, to give everything we have to the present moment, knowing that whatever happens next is not ours to judge. This is what the wisest people throughout history have understood. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of fate, not just acceptance of what happens, but a deep, unwavering love for all of it, the joy, the pain, the victories, the losses. Because once you stop resisting life, once you stop clinging to an idea of how things should be, you become truly free. Free to experience life as it is, rather than how you think it should be. Free to move forward without fear, because you trust that even the worst moments have a purpose. Free to live, truly live, without the constant anxiety of trying to control the uncontrollable. So here's the real question: what would happen if you fully embraced this? If you stopped seeing obstacles as problems and instead saw them as necessary transformations? What if every time something bad happened, instead of saying, "Why me?" you asked, "What is this making me into?" Would your life feel different? Would you finally understand that every moment, no matter how painful, is part of something far greater than you can currently see? The paradox of control, why letting go gives you true power if we accept that everything bad in our lives might actually be a blessing, that every failure is a redirection and every setback a transformation, then we are left with a radical realization we are not in control of life. But we are in control of how we respond to it. And that changes everything. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control the uncontrollable. We try to force situations to unfold the way we want. We try to make people see us a certain way. We try to manipulate outcomes, avoid discomfort, and guarantee our own success. But no matter how much effort we put into controlling life, reality always finds a way to remind us of the truth: we are not in charge. Bad things happen. Unexpected events derail our plans. People leave. Opportunities slip through our fingers. And when they do, we suffer not because of the events themselves, but because we resist them. We refuse to accept them. We tell ourselves that things weren't supposed to be this way. But who decides what was supposed to happen? Is it possible that life knows better than we do? This is the paradox of control. The more we try to force life to conform to our expectations, the more powerless we feel. But the moment we stop trying to control everything, the moment we surrender to the flow of life and trust that even the painful moments have purpose, we become truly powerful. Because now, instead of wasting energy fighting reality, we use that energy to adapt, to grow, to move forward with clarity and strength. Instead of seeing obstacles as threats, we see them as teachers. Instead of clinging to the past, we embrace the present. Instead of fearing the future, we step into it with confidence, knowing that whatever happens, we will find a way to turn it into something meaningful. But how do we actually do this? How do we train ourselves to let go of the illusion of control without becoming passive or indifferent? The answer lies in a shift of focus. Instead of obsessing over outcomes, we focus on process. Instead of trying to control external events, we focus on controlling our internal state. Instead of measuring success based on whether things go our way, we measure it based on how we respond when they don't. Think about the strongest, most resilient people you know. Are they the ones who panic when things go wrong? Or are they the ones who remain calm in the face of chaos, who trust themselves enough to handle whatever life throws at them? That kind of strength doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from trusting yourself enough to handle anything, and this is where real freedom begins. Because once you stop fearing the unknown, once you stop resisting reality, once you stop needing life to go a certain way in order to be happy, nothing can shake you. You become adaptable, unbreakable, unstoppable. You realize that no matter what happens, you will find a way to turn it into something powerful, because you always have, because you always will. So here's the final question. What if the very thing you're resisting right now, the thing you see as a problem, is actually the key to your transformation? What if, instead of fighting it, you embraced it? What if, instead of seeing it as an obstacle, you saw it as an opportunity? How much would your life change if you stopped trying to control it and started trusting it instead? The grand design, how every moment shapes who you're meant to be. If everything bad in your life is actually a blessing, if every painful experience is shaping you into something greater, then the final realization is this: there are no mistakes. Every moment, every event, every twist of fate is essential. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. The universe, in its infinite complexity, is weaving a story so vast, so intricate, that we can only see fragments of it at a time. And yet we judge those fragments. We label them as good or bad, fair or unfair, meaningful or meaningless. But what if we are wrong? What if everything that has ever happened to you, every heartbreak, every failure, every detour was never a mistake, but a precise, intentional part of your journey? Think about your life. Every version of you that has existed, the person you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is different from who you are now. And why? Because of change, because of struggle, because of everything that didn't go according to plan. The moments that tested you, the moments that broke you, the moments that forced you to grow, those were the moments that shaped you the most. If you had avoided them, if life had been easy, if everything had gone exactly the way you wanted, would you be as strong as you are now? As wise? As capable? Or would you still be stuck in an earlier version of yourself, never having been forced to evolve? This is why the Nova effect is so powerful. It exposes the illusion of our own judgment. We think we know what's best for us. We think we can separate the good from the bad, but we can't. Because the very things we fear, the very things we avoid, are often the things that hold the greatest lessons, the greatest transformations, the greatest gifts. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the failure that humbled you, these are not punishments. They are preparations. They are clearing the path for something else, something you cannot yet see. And if you resist them, if you cling to what is no longer meant for you, you only delay what's trying to reach you. So what is the answer? How do we live in a way that embraces this truth? It begins with trust, not a blind, passive trust, but an active, conscious trust in the process of life itself. It means looking at every situation, no matter how painful, and asking, how is this serving me? Not in the way you want, not in the way you expected, but in the way you need. It means shifting your mindset from victim to creator, from resistance to acceptance, from fear to faith, not faith in some external force, but faith in yourself, in your ability to turn every challenge into an opportunity. And when you do that, when you stop fighting life and start working with it, something incredible happens. You begin to see the hidden patterns. You begin to recognize that every loss was really a lesson, every setback a setup, every ending a new beginning. You stop fearing change because you understand that nothing real is ever lost, only transformed. And with that realization comes the greatest freedom of all. Because if nothing is truly bad, if everything is guiding you towards something greater, then what is there to fear? What is there to regret? What is there to resist? Life is not happening to you. It is happening for you. Every experience, every challenge, every unexpected turn, it's all part of a grand design, shaping you into exactly who you are meant to become. So I leave you with this: what if, from this moment forward, you stopped seeing life as something to control and started seeing it as something to trust? What if you embraced the unknown with open arms, knowing that even the hardest moments are leading you somewhere meaningful? What if you lived every day believing that nothing is truly against you, that everything is playing a role in your becoming? How much lighter would you feel? How much more powerful would you become? Maybe, just maybe, everything bad in your life was never bad at all.